Ever think a simple head count could, unlock success? We're taking a deep dive into a fascinating source today to explore just that. It's the second census of the Israelites. You can find it in the book of Numbers, chapter 26.
Mhm.
Now, I know you might be thinking, what can an ancient census teach us about, thriving in today's world?
Right.
Well, buckle up, because this deep dive is all about renewal and adaptation, which, let's face it, are essential for reaching any goal.
What's really interesting here is that this census, well, it wasn't just about the numbers. This took place after the Israelites had wandered in the desert. For years, like a whole generation was lost. Can you imagine that? The weight of that experience, that sense of starting over?
Yeah, talk about needing a fresh start. Makes you think about those times when you've had to adapt to something new in your own life, right? Like a new job, moving to a new city, or even picking up a new hobby.
Yeah, definitely.
This census was like that for the Israelites, but on a much grander scale.
This second census, it's described in Numbers 26.1 to 4. And it really marked a major transition. It wasn't just counting people. It was like the dawn of a new era, a real decision to leave the past behind and embrace the future. That's powerful stuff no matter what promised land you're going for.
So this new generation, the one they were counting, were they different?
Yeah.
Like fundamentally different from the one that came before them?
Oh, absolutely. That previous generation, they resisted change, like clinging to old habits, even when, they didn't work. But this new generation, they were ready. They were ready to enter the promised land and to embrace the change instead of being afraid of it.
Why do you think they were so willing to adapt? What made the difference?
Well, one thing is they hadn't gone through the same trauma as, their parents and grandparents. They weren't carrying that same baggage. But there's a practical side to this, too. The census itself, it was a crucial step to, like, get ready for the future. It was like they were taking inventory, assessing their resources, getting organized to face those challenges ahead.
So it was a deliberate act, not just like a symbolic one.
Exactly. And that's a good lesson for us today. If we want to reach our goals, like starting a business, learning a new skill, or even navigating a big life change, we need that same proactive approach.
It's all about being prepared,
Yeah.
equipping yourself with the tools and the right mindset to succeed.
Right. It's like, think about it this way. The Israelites were literally getting ready to enter a new land, a land full of unknowns. They needed to be adaptable, resourceful, and resilient. And guess what? Those same qualities are essential for us today as we, navigate this crazy, ever-changing world.
It makes me think about all the businesses that did really well during the pandemic. They were the ones who were able to, pivot, change their strategies, find new ways to connect with their customers. They embraced the change instead of fighting it.
Yeah. That's a great example of adaptation in action. And it's not just for entrepreneurs. It applies to everything. I don't care if you're a doctor, a teacher, an artist, or even a stay-at-home parent. The ability to adapt, to learn new things, to embrace new approaches, that's what's going to make you successful in today's world. Everything is changing so fast.
So if we think about our own personal promised lands, those goals and aspirations we're all working toward, what can we learn from the Israelites' approach to this census? How can we take that same, preparedness, that adaptability, and apply it to our own lives?
That's a really great question. And it takes us to another key insight from this, ancient story. Their journey wasn't just about getting to a place. It was about how they changed along the way. The wilderness, with all its challenges and hardships, well, it shaped them into a different kind of people. A people who were ready for the challenges and for the opportunities of the promised land.
So the journey itself was as important as the destination.
Absolutely. And that's a key takeaway for us today. It's not just about achieving goals. It's about who we become along the way.
It's about the growth, the resilience, the adaptability that we develop as we go through it all, right?
Exactly. The challenges we face, the setbacks, they're not just obstacles to overcome, they're opportunities for growth. They can really transform us. And it's through those experiences that we develop the qualities we need, to really succeed. And not just succeed in reaching our goals, but in living a truly fulfilling life.
This is already blowing my mind. And we're just getting started.
What's really fascinating is that this story of the Israelites, it's not just a historical account. It's like a reflection of the human experience, this universal journey that we all go on, as we try to make sense of this crazy thing called life.
So even though this story happened thousands of years ago, it still has valuable lessons for us today.
Absolutely. The challenges might be different. The context, it's definitely shifted. But the fundamental principles like renewal, adaptation, personal growth, They're timeless. They're as relevant today as they were for the Israelites wandering around in the desert.
This is making me think about my own life in a whole new way. What about you, listener? What wilderness have you journeyed through?
Yeah.
And what promised land are you striving for?
Yeah, and as you think about that, think about this. What can you learn from the Israelites and how they approach the second census? How can you embrace these ideas of renewal and adaptation, to navigate your own journey, to overcome your own challenges, and to create a future that really aligns with what's important to you, your deepest values and aspirations?
I'm already feeling inspired.
Yeah.
But wait, there's another layer to this story that I find really, really intriguing.
It's this idea that sometimes renewal, it requires more than just, external changes. We need to shift our internal narrative, the story we tell ourselves about who we are and what's possible.
So it's not enough to adapt our actions. We have to adapt our mindset too.
Exactly. The Israelites had their wilderness narrative. It was a story of hardship and limitation. And while sure it was rooted in their experience, it also kind of became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's like they were so focused on all the obstacles that they couldn't see the opportunities, blinded by their own story, so to speak.
And isn't that true for us sometimes too? Like we get stuck in these limiting narratives, stories about past failures, self-doubt, all those perceived limitations.
All the time. It's so easy to fall into those negative thinking traps, especially when things get rough.
Yeah.
But how do we break free? How do we actually rewrite that narrative?
It all starts with awareness.
Yeah.
Recognizing the stories that you're telling yourself. Are they empowering you? Or are they holding you back? Are they based on facts? Or are they based on fear?
Okay, so step one, figure out those negative thought patterns, those stories that are keeping you stuck. What's next?
Well, once you've figured out what those limiting beliefs are, you can start to challenge them. Ask yourself if they're really true. Look for evidence that contradicts them. And most importantly, try replacing them with more empowering beliefs.
So it's about consciously shifting our focus, right? From what we can't do to what we can do, from what we lack to what we have.
Right. And one way to do that is by focusing on your strengths, your accomplishments, the things you're grateful for. Try shifting your attention to the good stuff in your life and what you're capable of.
It's like retraining your brain, to see those possibilities instead of getting hung up on limitations.
Exactly. And as you practice this, you'll start to see your actions change too. You'll start taking risks, going for new opportunities, and stepping outside that comfort zone in ways you never thought you could.
So it's not just about thinking differently, it's about acting differently too.
Yeah, for sure. Our thoughts and our actions, they're all connected. When we change the way we think, our actions naturally follow. And as we start to act in line with those new, more empowering beliefs, we create this positive feedback loop. It reinforces those beliefs and pushes us forward.
It's like that saying, fake it till you make it, but with a more intentional twist. You're not just pretending to be confident, you're actually building a mindset that supports your goals and aspirations.
And as you do that, you start rewriting your narrative. You move from a story of limitation to a story of possibility, from a story of scarcity to a story of abundance.
Okay, so we've identified those limiting beliefs, we're actively challenging them, and we're replacing them with more empowering thoughts. What else can we do to help this whole narrative transformation thing along?
One really powerful tool is using affirmations. These are positive statements that you repeat to yourself. You can say them out loud or just think them silently. It helps to reinforce those new beliefs you're trying to build.
So instead of thinking, I'm not good enough, you might say something like, I am capable and worthy.
Exactly. It might feel a little weird at first, but repeating these positive statements, it can really have an impact on your subconscious mind. They help reprogram those thought patterns and create new neural pathways that support your desired beliefs and behaviors.
It's like planting these little seeds of positivity in your mind and then watering them with consistent attention and care.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And just like with seeds, the more you tend to those positive thoughts, the more they'll grow.
So if we want to rewrite our narratives to shift from that wilderness mindset to a promised land mindset, it's about becoming aware of our limiting beliefs, challenging them, replacing them with more empowering thoughts, and using affirmations to kind of solidify those new beliefs.
Exactly. It's a process and it takes work, but it's definitely a journey worth taking. Because when you change your story, you change your life.
This whole idea of narrative transformation is fascinating, but it also makes me wonder about the flip side. What happens when we cling to those old stories, even when they're clearly not helping us anymore?
That's a great question. And it brings us right back to the Israelites' journey. Remember that story about the spies who were sent into Canaan? It's a perfect example of what can happen when you hold on to fear and doubt.
Oh, right. The 10 spies who came back totally freaked out. They were focused on the giants and convinced everyone that the promised land was impossible to conquer.
Right. They were so blinded by fear. They were caught up in this negative narrative that they just couldn't see the possibilities. They let their fear take over. And because of that, a whole generation was stuck wandering in the wilderness for 40 years.
It's a pretty powerful reminder of how much our thoughts can actually shape our reality.
Mhm.
If you believe you can't do something, chances are you won't even try.
Exactly. Our beliefs, they really do create our reality. And if we're holding on to a narrative of fear, limitation, scarcity, we're going to act in ways that just confirm those beliefs, even if they're not true.
So how do we avoid that trap? How do we build up the courage to challenge those negative narratives and embrace something more empowering?
I think it starts by recognizing that fear is just, it's a natural part of being human. It's there to protect us, but it can also hold us back if we let it.
Hmm.
The key is to acknowledge the fear, but not let it run the show.
So it's about learning to manage our fear, not necessarily getting rid of it completely.
Exactly. And one way to do that is to reframe our perspective. So instead of seeing fear as this sign of weakness, we can choose to see it as an opportunity for growth. It's a sign that you're stepping outside your comfort zone, that you're pushing yourself to do something new.
So instead of thinking, I'm scared to do this, you might say, I'm excited about this challenge, even though it makes me nervous.
Exactly. It's about shifting the focus from what could go wrong to what could go right. It's about looking at the unknown as this place of possibility, not just like a bunch of risks.
This makes me think about what we were talking about earlier, the importance of embracing change. It takes a lot of courage to leave your comfort zone, to let go of the familiar and to actually embrace what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Change can be scary, but it's also a vital part of growth. It's through change that we evolve, we learn, we discover all these new possibilities.
And sometimes those changes, they're just thrust upon us, like with the Israelites wandering through the wilderness. But sometimes we get to choose change. We can actively seek out new experiences and opportunities.
And that's where courage comes in. It takes courage to actually make a change, to step into that unknown, to go after your dreams, even when you have no idea what's going to happen.
But as we've seen with the Israelites, those moments of courage, those decisions to embrace change, they can lead to amazing transformations for individuals and for whole groups of people.
And that leads us to another crucial element of renewal and adaptation: forgiveness. The Israelites had to forgive themselves, for their past mistakes, for their moments of doubt and rebellion. And they also had to forgive those who had wronged them.
Forgiveness, it can be such a tough concept. It's so easy to say those words, I forgive you, but actually letting go of that hurt and resentment, that's the hard part.
That's true. Forgiveness isn't about saying that hurtful actions were okay. It's about letting go of all that anger, the bitterness, the resentment, all that stuff we carry when we hold on to past hurts.
It's about recognizing that, hey, we all make mistakes, nobody's perfect, and holding on to grudges, well, it only hurts us in the end. It's about choosing to move on, not letting the past control your present or your future.
The Israelites' journey, it had its ups and downs, moments of unity and moments of division. But ultimately, it was their capacity for forgiveness, both individually and collectively, that allowed them to keep moving forward and build a new future.
So how does forgiveness fit into this bigger picture of renewal and adaptation?
It's a fundamental part of the process. Just like the Israelites had to let go of those past grievances to embrace their new future, we also have to be willing to forgive if we want to experience that transformative power of renewal.
So forgiveness isn't just about letting go of the past, it's also about making space for something new.
Exactly. When we're holding on to all that anger and resentment, we're basically blocking positive energy in our lives. We're stuck in a victim mentality, which keeps us from moving forward and seeing new possibilities.
So forgiveness is kind of like an act of liberation. It frees us from the chains of the past
Yeah.
and lets us step into the present moment with a renewed sense of hope and possibility.
Exactly. And it's an act of self-compassion, too. When we forgive ourselves for past mistakes, we're acknowledging that, we're only human. We're all works in progress. And we deserve to move forward with love and acceptance.
This is making me think about times when I've held on to grudges, when I've let anger and resentment, just fester. It never leads anywhere good. It just drags you down and keeps you from experiencing the good stuff in life.
I think a lot of people experience that. But the good news is we always have the choice to forgive. We can choose to let go of those negative emotions and step into more freeing and empowering way of being.
This is some powerful stuff. But I got to admit, sometimes forgiveness just feels overwhelming. Where do you even start?
It starts with a willingness to let go, to make a conscious decision to release that grip of anger and resentment. It doesn't just magically happen overnight. It's a process. It takes time and effort.
So we're not forcing ourselves to feel a certain way. We're making a conscious choice to shift our perspective.
Exactly. It's about choosing to see the situation and the people involved with more compassion and understanding. It's about recognizing that everyone's doing the best they can, with what they know and what they have at that moment.
And even if we can't completely forgive the other person, we can always forgive ourselves.
Absolutely. Self-forgiveness is crucial. It's about letting go of the guilt and shame that can hold us back, and keep us from living authentically.
It's about recognizing that we all mess up sometimes, that we're all on this journey of growth and evolution, and that we deserve to give ourselves the same compassion and understanding that we'd give to someone we love.
And as we practice forgiveness, both of ourselves and of others, we create space for healing, for growth, for renewal. We open ourselves up to new things, new relationships, a more expansive and fulfilling way of being.
So forgiveness isn't just about letting go of the past. It's about embracing the present and building a brighter future.
Exactly. And it's a good reminder that even when things are tough, even in the midst of hardship and adversity, there's always that potential for transformation, for growth, for renewal.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've covered so much, from the nuts and bolts of adaptation to the power of forgiveness and the importance of rewriting those narratives we tell ourselves.
Yeah, and we've seen how all these seemingly different ideas are actually all connected. Like they're all woven together to create this tapestry of renewal and transformation.
But before we wrap up, there's one more piece of the puzzle that I think we need to explore, something that kind of underpins this whole journey of renewal and adaptation.
What's that?
Faith.
Faith. Yeah. That's interesting. It might seem, I don't know, a little out of place here, but it really is important.
It's not so much about religion, right? It's more about that trust, that belief in something bigger than yourself. The Israelites, they had their faith in God, which definitely helped them along the way. But even for those who aren't, religious, faith is still relevant.
Definitely. It's about having faith in the things we can't see, the things that shape our lives, faith in the good in people, faith that things can get better. It's about believing that even when things are hard, when we can't see the path ahead, there's a reason to keep going.
It's like that feeling you get when you're starting a new project. Even if it seems really hard, there's the excitement, the possibilities. You kind of trust that it'll work out in the end.
Exactly. And that trust, that belief, it gives us energy. It keeps us moving forward. Even when we run into roadblocks, the Israelites had so many challenges, but they never forgot where they were going, that promised land. And that faith, that belief, it helped them through the hardest times.
It makes you think about all the amazing things that have happened in history, right? All those incredible discoveries, social movements, technology. None of it would have happened if people hadn't had faith, if they hadn't believed in something beyond what they could see or touch.
Right. Think about the Wright brothers. They had this vision of people flying, a belief that it was possible, even though everyone thought they were nuts. It was that faith, that determination that led them to make their dream a reality.
So faith isn't just some passive belief. It's this active force that pushes us to do things, to move forward, even when we don't know for sure what's going to happen.
Exactly. And it's not always a walk in the park. There will be times when, our faith is tested, when we have doubts, when we question things, when we just want to quit. But it's in those moments, those tough moments, that we have to really dig deep, tap into that inner strength and belief that gets us through the rough patches.
It's like they say, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase.
That's a good one. We might not always see the end goal, but if we trust the process, if we believe in ourselves and in, the good in the universe, we'll find our way.
It's funny how we started with this simple head count, and now we're talking about faith and the power of belief.
It really shows you how all these ideas are connected, right? Renewal, adaptation, forgiveness, faith, they're all part of the same story, woven together to create a life of meaning and purpose.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's sticking with you, listener? What ideas or takeaways are you going to take with you from our conversation today?
Remember, the Israelites' journey wasn't just about reaching a specific place. It was about change, growth, becoming who they were meant to be, and your journey is the same.
Embrace the challenges, the setbacks, all the uncertainty. They're all opportunities to grow and to renew yourself.
Believe in yourself, in what you can do, in the possibility of a better future.
And never stop learning, adapting, evolving.
This journey is yours to create. Make it an amazing one.
That's all for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey of exploration into renewal and adaptation. We hope you've picked up some valuable insights along the way that you can use in your own life.
And until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and keep striving to be the best version of yourself.